welcome to episode 7, thank you, of the PP podcast. It is Saturday the 24th of October. It's 10:25 for James. I'm reading off my laptop, and it's 11:25 for me. And the weather in Madrid is shit. It's cold, it's wet, and windy. I'm very happy. How's the weather in old Polton le Filed?
It is much the same. It is
Cool.
grey,
I thought so.
wet, miserable. Perfect weather for staying indoors and recording podcasts.
Exactly. It's perfect podcast weather. That's what we like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, shall we start off this week's discussion with some video games?
Yes. Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to talk about video games.
Let's do that.
So, a game I picked up recently and just played to completion was a game called Not Tonight, which I don't know if you've looked much at it.
Yeah, you've mentioned it to me before. It's the Brexit simulator kind of thing, right? Where you're like a bouncer.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's set. It very much feels like Papers, Please. So, Papers, Please, for any of our listeners who don't know, is you're like a border control guard, and in this kind of Soviet state, it's not like a real. It's called Ostotska, I think.
It's fake, right? Yeah.
It's like this fake Soviet state where you are processing on the border, and there's a whole storyline to go with it. So there's lots of conflicting emotion around, do I let this person in? They're desperately trying to leave their troubled country. But also my boss is going to dock my pay, and then my family will starve to death.
Yep.
So like it is like absolutely excellent. I love Papers, Please.
It's a fantastic
but it's
game.
very, very serious.
Yes.
Right, like it's got a dark tone, and there's like some cool things that happen, and you're not like, I guess, tense while you're playing, but the story is quite dark.
You feel like the sort of dread. I feel like it builds at the further you go, whichever way you go to, where you're like, you side with the state, or you try to side with the civilians as much as you can. You just feel like utterly crap, and just like it's just a very dreary place.
Yeah, but like that tone is just so well done. For, I don't know, you do feel like you're in this kind of this kind of oppressive state, and you kind of feel like the eyes on you.
Big Brother's there.
Yeah. Especially because like the citations are just instant if you make a mistake. So, and it's weird. It's so weird how that game, like, that's the archetypal game I think of when people talk about boring tasks made fun, because you are
definitely.
literally checking documents.
Yeah.
When were they? When's the date of entry? When were they born? Whatever. Like. It's such like tedious work somehow made fun, because you're like given all this context, and you care about whether you let this person through or not. So Not Tonight is in that vein, in that it's story driven with this main mechanic of checking documents. So you're a bouncer. And people come, they hand you their ID. You've got to check their photo, their date of birth. Sometimes there's like tickets and things to the event that you have to check. But there's a lot more humour to it. It's more like a black comedy.
Okay.
Because it's set in this dystopian Brexit future where it's like Albion first, so basically Britain first.
Yeah.
And they all talk about the Euros, like how much they hate, and like your character you pick is always like born in like some English town, but with
Mhm.
European parents, and so everybody all the way through is calling you filthy Euro or another one of these, and you're like, yeah, but I'm from, and they never let you say where you're from. So that's like the setup to the game, and it was really funny. There was so many places that actually really made me laugh. Maybe because, as we'll both know, like people in our lives that are kind of like that.
Yes.
You know, you can just believe the characters that have immediately turned on everyone vaguely European. But yeah, what I quite like about the game is they added a lot more outside of the actual gameplay.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of stuff. You don't just see like an end screen. You like go back to your home and you can like choose to spend money on like new wallpaper, so you live nice and
Okay. Yeah.
shithole. And some of it's like functional, but some of it is just not. It's just like,
Yeah.
are you good enough at the game that you have the money to spare on
Right.
stuff like
Right.
that? Not that it's a particularly hard game. I think Papers, Please is like harder to, like, you have to manage more, whereas this
Mhm.
you've got like quite a bit of leeway. So yeah, I know you like Papers, Please, so I would definitely recommend that you pick it up and give it a play.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one that, since you mentioned it, that I'm like praying that my laptop can run it, because Brexit itself is depressing as fuck. And as someone who has moved to the EU, I guess is how we'll say it now, or in 2021, and all the problems it's going to cause, I do quite like the idea of a game that just pokes fun at every sort of aspect of that, whether it be the fucking idiot people that like perpetuate all the dodgy stuff. Like, you filthy Euro, like you said, the characters say. Like, I've met plenty of those people in my time, in Blackpool and even in Sheffield, which is like dead multicultural and stuff. So, and then also like the management side of it and making the tasks fun. Like, I can't imagine being a bouncer is a particularly thrilling job unless you're a bit of a psycho and you're looking for a drunk guy to punch up every now and then. But yeah, no, it sounds like an interesting experience, definitely.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that make it more interesting. I did find myself a little bit more. There was some days where, like, because it plays day by day,
Yeah.
you do like a job on a day, where I was kind of like, oh, I'd rather just skip this, but I can't for whatever reason.
Okay.
Although, to be fairness, that was more on my second playthrough where I was achievement hunting.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend buying it to play through once.
Yeah.
That's good fun. I wouldn't like say there's necessarily replay value, but then that's not the way these story-driven games
No,
work.
not at all.
That's fine. But yeah, there's stuff that happens to keep the bouncing more interesting. So like, on the one hand, the music is good.
Okay, is it good?
They've done a soundtrack for it.
Yeah.
And I really like some of the music that's going on in the pub.
Nice.
And it's such a minor thing, but it's also a really nice detail, is that when you let people in, they walk past, open the door and go in. And as the door opens, the music gets louder and then quieter and a bit more muffled as it shuts.
Lovely. That's great.
And I think that just tells you a lot about how the people making the game obviously cared.
Yeah.
And they thought about like the details like that. And they put all the time into making this soundtrack that a lot of the time is muffled by the shut door.
Oh, damn.
Like, it's a really good song that you only hear like as the door's opening and closing, and there's like recurring characters and things as well.
Yeah.
The usual good stuff.
And then I think sound design is underrated a lot in video games, like be it music or just the sounds of the game itself, be it like ambient or like in Mass Effect. Sometimes I'll happily just go to a random planet and stand there for 20 minutes and then I'll read a book or something because I love just like the sound of the space cars going, like, one by one. There'll be some cool tunes in the background, or like in a more of a shooter game, how the shotgun sounds and feels, all those things like add to the game, like in a lot of good ways. So yeah, I love the muffled door thing. It's
nothing
fantastic.
worse than unlocking a new weapon, and it just makes like the wettest sound when you fire it. It's
Wet is the fucking word, definitely.
Like it could be the most powerful weapon in the game, but you want it to sound good.
Exactly.
That's like
yeah,
for sure.
In Call of Duty World at War, which is the fifth one set in World War II, as you know, that was when they first introduced the zombie mode, where you could like 4-player co-op this sort of like wave defense, which obviously blew up and became like one of the biggest parts of COD. But I remember playing the very first map, like on my own, and you'd go to like a mystery box and you could pay, and you'd get a random weapon, and it plays like a little tune, and then it like cycles through all the weapons really quickly, so you can't really see them. And then it was like my third go, and the fucking ray gun pops up, and obviously it looks like a little tiny like alien ray gun, like no bigger than maybe like a part of my forearm to the end of my hand. And you look at it and you're like, sure, I mean, this is probably going to like kill the enemies really well, but I bet it's a bit naff. And you pull it out and you shoot when it goes like, and it does like a crazy noise, and like little rings fire off and hit the zombies. And everyone loved that gun. Everyone always wanted that gun.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So yeah, I think appreciating that is important in video games for sure.
Yeah, I mean everything from like how do you voice the characters?
Mm-hmm.
Do they like talk, or like in Not Tonight they kind of mumble talk at you?
Yeah.
So you can like choose your guy's voice. I chose the silliest voice, so he goes like, "Whoa," like he's made it's these like really, and there's some that sound a bit like deep and menacing, like I'm the menacing bouncer.
Yeah.
But I went straight for I'm goofy.
Goofy guy. Yeah.
Like, can you just? That just made it so much funnier for me as well.
Nice.
But yeah, I think in a game like this, where the actual gameplay task is dull in real life, you need things like that to make it more tactile, and it's not the only thing as well. Like, I think another key element is that feeling like what you're doing matters or counts towards something.
Yeah.
Like, it does a really good job of, you have targets, you have so many people to let in, and you get a bonus if you get through more. But I've played quite a few of these kind of games where they're kind of like pixely or sort of 2D art. I played one called Death and Taxes, for example.
Death and Taxes.
Where you're like an assistant to death.
Oh, that's sick.
And you're deciding whether people go to heaven or hell.
I love that. That's cool.
I thought the same. I really like the theme. I've played a little bit of it, but I actually found it a bit disappointing because it didn't really feel like I mattered where I sent people.
Oh, that's shit then.
Like it didn't add up. It didn't really have like the citations mechanic or, so it kind of removed all the onus from your decisions, and that's like one of the most important aspects of the game.
That's like the point, is the consequences of did you choose left or right correctly? Like, that's the best bit.
But so yeah, I would recommend Not Tonight over the other ones I've kind of played.
I'm definitely going to check it out.
There's also a DLC called One Love where you it's set like after the events of the game,
Okay.
so it features some of the characters, and you can go out and it's like dating.
Oh shit.
So you're like matching with people on this kind of like Tinder style app.
Yeah.
And you've got to go and work jobs to have money to buy things and buy nicer clothes.
Oh, interesting.
Things like this. I'm not sure it's worth the extra price, like, at least maybe not to immediately play.
I mean, how much is it?
I think it's like £7. It's not like it's not overpriced.
Not too bad.
What I mean is, I've not really played very much of it. I think it's more something that you should like not play the game for 6 months,
and then you could go back to it, right?
And then go back to it and have that as like a new experience.
Right. Yeah, no, I can dig that. I can dig it, definitely. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. That is.
Although there is currently a bit of a blocker to you playing.
Yes.
Any video game that is not the one you've been plowing all your hours into.
Literally. So, yeah, once again, FTL has taken over my life. After 8 years, and I think it was about 35 hours, I finally beat the game on easy with the Kestrel default ship, and it was like I'd graduated from like the flight academy or something. Everything, the RNG went perfect, all my battles went perfect, and got to the big boss at the end, and just completely, and I did it without the advanced edition stuff as well, and I just completely fucked his shit up and took out his stealth, took out the drones, the shields, the missiles, and just bossed it. And I have since gotten 3 times back up to the boss with the Zoltan Cruiser and gotten my shit completely fucked up. I always get through the first phase, and then the build that I had with the weapons just couldn't get through the fields. And then it also had like 2 defense drones, which is fucking ridiculous. I think that's part of the advanced edition stuff. So I'd get through the shields, and I'd be firing like every weapon I have, and it means that the defense drones take out your drones as well, so they're fucking useless. So obviously that takes out like 1 or 2 lasers out of my arsenal from the get-go. I'd get through the shields, and then the defense drones would just be like pop pop, and just so I would throw everything at this cunt of a ship, and it just wouldn't do a thing. And obviously I got my shit fucked up. But the because I've never played the advanced edition stuff, which I think came out a couple of years after. But there's just some like really cool stuff. There's a new alien race that doesn't need oxygen, called the Lanius, I think. They have a cool ship, and there's just like different events and stuff. Like, you know how you would fly to a beacon, and it would have like, this is near a sun, so the solar flares would happen, or there's an asteroid field. There's like a new one where it's like a moon, and it sends out like an ion pulse and knocks out all the shields for like every ship. So it's like a complete race against time. And then, you know, if say the rebels catch up to you, and you have to like fight a ship and escape, instead of a ship, it now has like the whole fleet there. Every sort of 30 seconds fires like a guided missile volley at your ship. So the feeling of needing to get the fuck out as fast as possible is just intensified and more stressful in every possible way. And yeah.
Oh, because
exactly.
More stress is what that game
and
needed.
The game I think it's a timeless one for me, because even though I beat it, I got to the boss 3 more times and got wrecked. And then I also had a really good build going. It was like perfect. And I was up to like Sector 6 or something. And then a mantis boarded my ship, and I like kind of fucked up a little bit. And then, so I opened the doors obviously to try and like asphyxiate him to get rid of all the oxygen. But as that was happening, he managed to break my doors, so I couldn't then close the doors afterwards to get all the oxygen back in. So obviously at that point you're just fucked, because you have to try and send like 5 dudes to quickly the oxygen. To fix the doors, close all the doors, and everyone got asphyxiated and died, and I lost. And I was literally
it is a great example of
oh my god, this video game.
Sure.
But that's not stopped me from going back again
It
with the
after you
Zoltan
spoke
Cruiser
about it last
and
time, I
just enjoying it.
and like we were saying about how you might have to install it to check your achievements. I was like, I'll install it and see what I've done, and just it all came flooding back as I loaded up the game, and just like, oh god, I remember this. And so one thing, I don't know if you've tried it out yet, but
Yeah.
at about, so I think I put about 40 hours in to FTL, and I just about managed to beat it on easy. And then I remembered that unlocks you the new like Federation ship. Have you tried that one out?
I tried it out once. I got fucked up straight away because I think I played on normal. So I've yet to beat it with that shit. But it's the one that has like the big charge weapon.
Yeah,
Am I right?
yeah. So I've no idea if I ever got around to beating the game with that ship. I probably just beat it once with the starting cruiser, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just loved how like you beat the game and you unlock this ship that just has this like completely new weapon you've not seen, where you just like
Yeah.
fire this beam like across the enemy ship. Like
It's great.
you just all the times you've like had to think about what to target, and it's so stressful. Of do I fire here or
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
And now it's just like nope, the beam's just gonna hit everything.
Exactly. Yeah. My current builds that I've got with a run that I've got saved at the moment, it's the Zoltan Cruiser. I've got 3 shields up. The engine's up to like 45% dodge, and then I've got the halberd beam, and then I've got I think it's called the charge shot, where it fires um, two like lasers, but every time it fires, it gets faster at loading, and then I've got another beam on top of that, and the way that they all charge up for the first volley lines up so that the charge shot takes out the shields enough for like a second for the 2 beams to just go across each other and just completely like eviscerate the enemy ship, and it's so much fun. I'm having such a good time with it. I know I'm gonna die, but it's great.
Yeah, and actually, you talking earlier about sound design. FTL is a
Yeah,
great
dude.
example of that.
Oh, so good. All
Just
the effects and all the music is perfect
and
in
I can
every
literally
way.
hear it now. Like
Yeah,
there's games, I've put more time into that the sound effects have not stuck with me in the same way. You just like forget about them. But I can remember the
yeah.
sound it makes when you jump, like when you knock out shields, when you blow up, a part of their ship. Um, yeah, just absolutely excellent in each case.
Love it. And I think I've already said about Ben Prunty, the guy that he did all the music. He's like a really successful like soundtrack guy now, and he does loads of soundtracks for loads of games. Um, but everyone always goes back to his FTL stuff. And I think he tweeted the other day something like, um, sales are really good, guys, so I really appreciate you guys supporting me while, COVID's happening and stuff. One thing I've noticed though is that I don't even consider, he said, like, I don't consider FTL to be like his greatest work or anything. He considers like other stuff a lot better, but it's still the one that sells the most. And that shows, like, even if he doesn't think it is, but it is clearly like that good.
Yeah, it definitely has to be in combination with a good game. Like I think if the game, I mean, sometimes this doesn't always hold true, but like sometimes you might like the music, but if it's overlaid over a shit game, you start to dislike it by association.
Yeah, it doesn't
If the game
it
is
doesn't
just
matter as
hugely
much.
frustrating.
Yeah,
Whereas
no,
when you
that's
really like
the
the
thing.
game, like FTL, and it's not just that the music or the sound effects are good, it's that they are so well matched to the gameplay and the experience.
Yeah, it all matches together in tandem and just creates like this awesome experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I think I'll be playing this fucking game to the end of my days. Um,
Yeah.
just I will never stop. Um,
Just FTL
Yeah.
for life.
FTL for life. I do have one quick thing. It's not like a massive discussion or anything that I'd like to do quickly. So I read a book this week, and have you ever heard of Starship Troopers?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I also read that book, but it's just by the same author. But it's a book called Double Star, and I just thought the idea was really interesting. I just wanted to briefly chat about it. So it's basically like humanity's colonized, planets, blah blah blah. Martians are real. They live on Mars. We're friends with the Martians. Um, but the basic story is that there's like an actor who's basically a scumbag on Earth, and he's down to his last penny, and he meets like a spacer in a bar, and the spacer's like, "Oh, I've got a job for you," and obviously the guy's like, "Sure, I need money. I'll do literally anything." And as they go back to the hotel and sort of figuring it all out, two Martians burst into the room, shoot someone, and then they turn and kill the Martians. And the actor's like, "Fuck this, I'm out. This is craziness." And he basically gets kidnapped and taken into space, and he's on a ship, and he's like, "What is this job that you've ended up kidnapping me to do?" And the guy reveals that he basically has to like play the role of like a really important politician who's been kidnapped by people that hate Martians because there's some sort of like treaty going on. So the whole idea is that he has to play the role of the president and be like perfect and play it through to its end. And I'm pretty sure that must have been a plot or an idea in something, but
Yeah, there's actually a film from, I think, the 50s. It's a black and white film called Roses Are Red,
mm-hmm.
where there's this politician and this kind of criminal who's just come out of prison who happen to look really similar.
Yeah.
So like there's like a mob boss who the politician is like cracking down on. So he captures him to replace him with this actor that he can lean on.
Yeah.
And so there's like a scene where they're like trying to, they've got the politician captured and he's trying to learn his mannerisms so that he can impersonate him, and then they're going to kill him and replace him. So that's an okay film. I would not recommend it. But yeah, I really liked the premise. So
yeah,
if good, I can see how you could make a lot of that story.
Definitely, and it definitely goes places. And obviously, in the end, they get the politician back, and he's going to be like space president or whatever the fuck. It's quite pulpy. It's a good book. I think it was from the 60s or early 50s, and but in the end, the ordeal of that politician being kidnapped, he has a stroke and fucking dies. So the actor's like, "What the fuck do I do now?" And obviously all the politicians like aides are like, "Come on, you can be him. You did all this stuff. Just be him." And he's like, "Oh God." And in the end, he decides to basically take on the role for life. And then like the story ends.
Wow.
And it does an epilogue of like 25 years later, and it's like him, and he's like, "I no longer think about the person I was. I am this politician." And it's like it's quite a silly story, but I did think it was really cool, and the fact that it was like set in space and there's some funny writing and stuff that goes on. Yeah, it's just like a random book I read.
Silly's not a bad thing, right?
No, I love silly.
Some of the best stories are really silly.
Definitely. Yeah, that was a cool one that I read.
Cool. Well, there we are. We've had an episode on video games and books.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch on films this time.
We didn't at all.
I think that's the first time we've not delved into films. But I mean, to be honest, I've been starting to play games more and more, so maybe that'll be a bigger part of this.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, that was episode 7. I was so confident at the start, and now I've forgotten.
I could not tell you.
Well, yeah, we will call it there, and we'll catch everyone next week
Yeah.
on the PP podcast.
Goodbye.